Well, Michigan hung in there tonight against Michigan State. About 6 or 7 minutes left. And then it was like the plug was pulled, and MSU goes on to a 10-point victory. Michigan State wins it 73-63. Welcome into the Michigan basketball post-game live show. I'm Dennis Fithian. There it is. Michigan playing their 26th game of the year. It was Michigan versus Michigan State for the second time this season. And the Spartans led by 2 at the half. Michigan did not do a good job in their last possession of the half, giving MSU a chance. And Spartans ended up burying a couple free throws to get the lead at the break. But in the second half, Michigan got up by 5 early. They had then a back and forth situation, tie game with 7 to go. And then I'd say it's just started slipping away. A few little things. A missed block out on the free throw line got Michigan State an extra possession and some more points. And then Michigan, when they came down, they didn't really run anything. And if they did, it didn't work. And then they had to settle for contested jumpers. And you could just feel it by watching their offense, whether you want to call it stagnant or iso ball or it just didn't work. All of those things apply. Michigan State was coming down, driving the lane, dunking, and then hit a three-pointer, which was a dagger. And then Michigan, it just snowballed on them. They turned the ball over. By my numbers, 7 of 8 possessions after the game was tied. A season high 22 turnovers and over I think a 7-minute drought to end the game. That was it. You had under 7 minutes to go, a tie ball game, and then the Michigan didn't score again. And Michigan State put the screws to them. They beat them by double figures. They covered the spread, and Michigan goes into the night with a big L. And for Michigan, this was a game. They're not, as we know, going to the postseason. Michigan is now 3-12 on the year in the Big Ten. That's dead last in the conference, and they're 8-18 overall. This was a game, if you were paying attention to Michigan hoops, this game and then the first game of the Big Ten tournament to see if they could win a game. Who knows? That's not for another 3 weeks. But in between now and then, the games aren't pointless. But when you're talking about your average Michigan basketball fan, they wanted this one, and they might pay a little bit of attention on that Wednesday night, the first round of that first Big Ten tournament game. Maybe it's in the afternoon, but that's about it. Other than that, the season is cashed. And, it's unfortunate because there's a lot of people that are like, doesn't matter, through the thick and thin. Well, here you are. This is the thin part, for the people that are really hanging in there. And this tonight wasn't a microcosm of the season because most of the season, we all know the way it goes. Michigan kind of hangs in there until the half. It was like the last time that Michigan played Michigan State up in East Lansing. That was a close game at the half, and then the Spartans came out and slapped a 10-0 run on them and then never looked back. This one, Michigan got a 5-point lead in the second half, and then they were hanging in there and trading baskets until 7 minutes to go, and then it was just over. And what happens in basketball is that it is a game. You're going to have some ebbs and flows and runs, all the things that everyone says, because that's what happens during games. And then it becomes winning time. Under 10, certainly under 5. And in this game right here, Michigan State is elevating their play and they're getting ready for the NCAA tournament. And they're headed this way and Michigan's headed that way. And that's how it looked out there. When it's winning time, you got to be able to run some plays to get some baskets. Michigan, their plays there's not so much plays. It's like, I don't know, it's not run and gun, free flow though. It's like, go ahead, Doug McDaniel, try a drive. He starts saying things like jack up a three. But what you could tell by watching it without looking and talking with the coaches and, the philosophy or anything else, when you see guys cut and you see some passing and you see guys entering the ball to the post and then exchanging spots, and then you see the ball passed around and you make a basket, you can just tell as an observer, like, that feels good. And when you stand there and you try to run something and you don't, and then you kind of freeze for a couple seconds and the guy's on you and you just shoot one up and you miss, it's a negative. The entire team sags. The crowd sags. You look at it, it's a bad shot. Michigan took bad shots, and then the turnovers that they had with under 7 minutes to go, wild drive, Trey Jackson with the ball down by his ankles. You know what's going to happen? It's going to get stolen every time. Olivier Nkamhoua does a lot of things really well. You know the two things he doesn't do well? The two things I've been saying since early in the season. Everybody knows it. He shouldn't do it. He should not put the ball on the floor and try passing or driving, because he turns it over at an alarming rate when he does that. He did it again tonight. Guess what? He's going to do it again the rest of the season. He's been doing it all year long. Early in the game, he did it. He tried to go coast to coast. And here he was going over the timeline. And what happened? Well, he got stripped. Big surprise. No, it's not. It's not a surprise. And you say it comes down to coaching. I would agree with that. It does come down to coaching. The coaching staff, they do not put this team in good positions. And you can say, I heard Jimmy Jackson on the call. That's not a talent thing. Well, if it's not a talent thing, then it's a coaching thing. I happen to think it's a little bit of both. They have zero bench. TW2 didn't play tonight, so that even made it shorter. They don't have any answers over there on the bench. There's nobody to go to on the bench. And the starting five that they have, not all of them, it is a talent thing, because they don't have even the five guys that they have. If they were like in supreme condition or something, they're not good enough where you'd say, oh yeah, that's a winning formula. So it is a talent thing, but it is also a coaching thing. It is a combination of the two. But it doesn't, I'll give Jimmy Jackson this. What's he going to say? Well, this team, they just really lack talent. That's why they're dead last in the Big Ten. And they don't really particularly look all that well coached. They say that's what you want from a color analyst, but they don't get that. It's too harsh. Well, this team's in dead last. They can finish there in the basement for the first time in the Big Ten in over 50 years. Woo, Gus, man, this thing really is getting bad. No. Because for a lot of the game, they were hanging in there. But, man, they just fell off a cliff tonight with 7 minutes to go. And maybe you would watch this and say, hey, they did they hung in longer than I thought. And they were shorthanded. Give them credit. You can have that opinion. When you play certain games, the stakes are much bigger. This is one of those games. When you play Michigan State, I've got news that probably everybody knows. This game, for a lot of people, was the first time that they even paid attention, if they paid attention at all to Michigan. This is how it works in sports. You have football, which everybody loves. And then when football's over in the college, people start watching the pro football and the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And then when that's over, they say, wow, what am I going to do now? Oh, let's get 3 weeks. Let's kind of crank it up. College basketball. Let's start watching. Teams are, jostling for position, trying to get that seeding going, trying to think about, the NCAA tournament. And this game means a lot more. And so there's going to be more people infuriated and wondering, like, wow, Michigan really looked terrible down the stretch. Yeah, they did. If you wanted to put it more on coaching than the players or conditioning, their strength and conditioning coach, they couldn't get along with the head coach early in the year, so he's not there. So you could that dark cloud has hung over this team and this season all year long. And Ward Manuel was in attendance tonight. I couldn't tell. They didn't pan around. You can't really see in the upper bowl because it's dark. They put a few spotlights, but you could tell when Cooper for Michigan State threw down some dunks. Michigan had a hard time defensively. They're not a very good defensive team. We all know that. But they really have a hard time guarding the drive, and they really had a hard time guarding the pick and roll and then the lobs to the rim. Carr threw a couple monster dunks down. Cooper had a couple. I mean, how many dunks were there by MSU tonight? Too many for Michigan, who couldn't contest them and say that there's a no dunk lane here tonight. Nobody said that to Michigan because there was if you took the over 10 dunks, MSU, you cashed. Let's take a look. We've got some feedback. Let's see what jumps out when we look at the box score. With a final of 73-61. Malik Hall with 18 points. He had some tomahawk jam late. It was kind of what was that, 3 minutes to go? Maybe a little bit more than that. That was the final nail in the coffin when he went down the lane and just punched one on Michigan. Sissoko didn't score. Akins got hurt, didn't do a whole lot. He had been playing well. And Hogard was in foul trouble. He didn't do much. And Walker, if you would have told me play that game, would you take 6 of 16, 1 of 5 from downtown for 19 points for Walker? So sign me up for that. And not much from the bench. Carr had those, the jumping jack Carr had those jams, but nothing really else. Holloman had a couple drives in there for MSU, but this one, Hall. And what really came down is just executing and slicing Michigan up and playing defense and playing their game with 7 minutes to go and just snuffing the Wolverines out. Terrace Reed Jr., I liked his game tonight. Active, played well, had 15 points and 11 boards. And just that one turnover, he always has that one where they catch him traveling. Foot in the cookie jar, hand in the cookie jar, whatever. Kamwa, 8 turnovers for Olivier Kamwa. Let's all say it together. That's too many. Doug McDaniel, the part-time point guard playing at home tonight. 13 points, not good enough from McDaniel. Had a good first half and was knocking down some J's, but he was a no-show. MSU, whatever they did, the game plan in the final 7 minutes, they made sure it wasn't going to be Doug McDaniel that beat him, and he didn't. Burnett was pretty good in the first half. It looked like he tired. I would say the same thing about Llewellyn, who ended up with 12 points. Looks like he got tired. Michigan got 0. I'm sorry, they got 2 points from Will Cheddar off the bench. I know sometimes, like on the internet, because what else are you going to do? You say, hey, why don't they play Will Cheddar a little bit more? Will Cheddar hasn't done a whole lot in 2024, but you can make that argument. It's not the bench. It's not the rotation when it comes down to it. It's coaching in terms of getting the guys to play defense, getting them to accept the challenge of being competitive. They lack that. That's what this team lacks. They lack a competitive nature. They don't play well together. They lack a competitive nature, and they don't play defense well. That's a really bad combination when you don't have a whole lot of talent, when you're going up against the other Big Ten teams, and what it equals if you being the last place team in the Big Ten. What's there left for this season? Well, not much. You could say that you don't want to see them finish dead last in the Big Ten. I can understand that if you're like a big Michigan basketball fan, you don't want to wear that. You don't want to wear a last place on your resume. Yeah, I can understand that. But it also could be we're in this situation where you might not root for it, but you're just going to let it happen. It doesn't matter what you do. Finishing dead last for the first time since Cassie Russell left this team in the mid-60s. It could also be a final nail in the coffin for the staff. Not that you're rooting for it or anything else, but it's kind of like organically let that happen. But that's up to each individual. Does it matter if you're cheering for them not to finish in last place? I guess if you're going to the games and you're still hanging in there and cheering on the team, sure, I could see that. There are things to look to, like Doug McDaniel. I saw an ominous tweet that I hope there's not more to it from this guy on Twitter, Trilly Donovan. He seems to be, he's a huge college basketball guy, and he just throws stuff out. He tweets like probably 100 tweets a day. But he's got all kinds of stuff that he's on there that he seems like he's right about. And in December, he was like, oh, bad news for Doug McDaniel. He's going to be suspended for the year. Everybody's like, whoa, does this guy know what he's talking about? I don't know if he knows what he's talking about. He kind of knew what he was talking about. And then he made some remark tonight about diminutive point guards in versus, the classroom or something. And the suspension is supposed to be lifted tonight. I saw this because McDaniel turning things around. I'm a second, even third chance type person. So I would like to, if you look at Doug McDaniel, say, oh man, he cost Michigan. He was part of the problem this year with his team finishing in last place. That's true. But with the 7 or 8 games remaining, and now that he can go on the road like to Northwestern on Thursday, playing well. Now, he might be gone. Juwan Howard could be gone. And Doug McDaniel might hit the transfer portal as soon as the season's over, if not sooner. He might already be cutting deals. I don't know. But everyone's a free agent now in college sports. So all these players are going to be looking for playing time and money. Well, you get playing time here, but what's the third component in there? Winning. You want to be on a winner, you want money, and you want to play. And Michigan can offer how many of those things? You get some playing time. But I'm not really speculating on that. My point was rooting for Doug McDaniel to just turn some things around individually and play well for the remaining games. I would put Will Cheddar and Terrace Reed Jr. in that category as well. I don't think those guys are going anywhere. So they're the future of Michigan. Cheddar and Reed Jr. Yo-Yo and GW3, anything that those guys provide is going to be a bonus. They haven't really shown that much. They got a long way to go. I wouldn't expect to see much from them. There is a handful of games remaining, so maybe they get a little bit more time. You can say, why not give them some time? Because when they're out there, they don't do a whole lot. That's why. But the argument that the other guys are out there, they don't do anything either is a point that I hear. So that's what to root for. Let's see where the people are at tonight. Adam, looking at the turnovers and saying 22. Most live ball and let State get transition and secondary transition buckets. Wow. Yeah, most turnovers, 22 on the year. Michigan Go Blue is extremely exhausted from the Juwan Howard experience. I would be so happy if we just did the right move. Yeah, I think if I was hoping what happens, if I was a Michigan fan, I hope they get to the end of the year and Ward Manuel goes in with Juwan Howard and says, hey, Juwan, you had the health issue. You gave this a shot. Here's the money that we have available for you. We are going to move on. How about you how about we say you're leaving for health reasons and that's it. You get your money. You're going to get your money anyways, but then it's not a you're fired type situation, and everybody moves on happily. Now maybe Juwan says, "I'm fine. I want to keep coaching," and then you say, "Okay." If I was in charge at this point, and I'm thinking about it today, I would be making a move for another coach, and I have a long list that you can see on the Maize and Blue review of my Michigan basketball coaching hot list 2.0. That is on the Den. I put it up there before the game tonight. P. Maximus is talking about turnovers. Didn't score in the last 7 minutes. No go-to guy to count on. Yeah, you can't. You gotta run something. Individual ISO hero ball, whatever you want to call it. Go get me a bucket because I'm the star. Man, it was draining. And at first, it was just a slow. They didn't get that block. They didn't get that block out, and Malik Hall got a rebound, and they fouled him. That was the start of it. But then it was not only did they not score, it was the turnovers. What did I have them down in the last 7 minutes? So they didn't score for the last 7 minutes, and they turned it over on 7 of their last 8 possessions. They might have had a possession there in the last one, so you might be able to. The numbers might be a little fudge there, but from the 7-minute mark till the last couple seconds, they had turned the ball over 7 of 8 times with their possessions. You don't need to be Dr. Naismith to on this broadcast to have you tell you that that's not going to get it done. Lance is tired of this. OSU did it. Might as well rip the Band-Aid off. Our coaching is a train wreck. Whenever you get into any critical moment, it slips away. Fire Juwan. I'm tired of this. I get that. Adam going to the Sanderson dark cloud over the program. Adam saying we have a team full of individuals. Sanderson was 100% correct for bringing that up. Maybe not the way he did, but very true. Yeah, however that went down, I think he said it was a culture that wasn't, he didn't like it. He, Sanderson and Juwan did not see eye to eye, and that's why Sanderson's on the outside looking in, and it does seem that Sanderson was correct. P. Maximus. This was alumni night and honoring the championship teams and Cassie Russell. Yeah, I don't think Cassie's going to be. Hey, Cassie, the year after you left, Michigan finished last in the Big Ten. This team, this team is in last place right now for the first time since the year you left. Adam says if Ward keeps you on, they cut his salary in half a little bit. We'll see how bad he wants to be head coach at Michigan. Yeah, I get what you're saying there because he did that with Harbaugh, but Juwan's contract is not up. You're saying go to Juwan and say, hey, if you want to stay here, you gotta give half of your money back. I don't think that is going to be how it works. I do think that if whether it was Juwan, we'll just take Juwan and put him over here for a minute. Moving forward with Michigan, however, name, image, and likeness and free agency in college basketball is working, Michigan needs to get on top of that. Whoever's going to be the coach next year, they also need to work with the transfer situation. If it's going to be like it's been, Michigan is got one of their hands tied behind their back, so they better get a coach in here that is going to be looking for the long haul and is going to be able to make chicken salad out of you-know-what, chicken feathers, because it's going to be a tough hoe for whoever the coach is. Somebody doesn't like Trey Jackson, I'm sorry, but for his measurables, yeah, like he can give you a couple minutes. That's it. Adam talking about bad fouls. Here's more on the AD. I get it. It's not this bad, but I understand it. Team playing worse than some pickup ball at the Y. Okay. Not only fire the coach, fire the AD, get rid of this player, get rid of that player. Scott liked the Trey Jackson going one-on-one twice. Brilliant coaching. Did Reed foul out? No, he didn't. Lance says hearing Gus Johnson's stroke Ward Manuel. The reason Beeline left was Manuel. I don't think that's actually true, but it's all right, Lance. I mean, like, hey, well, the thing about even if I don't think that's true, but anything I say in that regard would sound like like I'm defending Ward Manuel here tonight, and I just don't want to do that. I'm not. I'm not as negative towards the athletic director as everyone else. I understand the situation. You understand the situation too. I just don't feel like tonight carrying the banner for the athletic director. We'll see what happens after the season when it comes down to that. Everything's the same here, Derek. Looking good, Derek, in that Michigan hat. Howard needs to go, and hopefully Michigan can bring in the coach from Shirts. Is that his name? From Indiana State. He's on that list the aforementioned list that I mentioned. I think that is something that they could look at. Matt mentioning that Jawan's the first $100 million NBA player, $100 million NBA player. I don't think his contract is driving him. He loves his school. Yeah. But who knows? Like, money is money. You still, he could have $100 billion and he might still want his money, so whatever, how that goes. Real Ukes says lazy defense, lazy passing, just downright lazy basketball. Our depth is atrocious. Well, let's break this one down. The depth is atrocious. There's can't be an argument for that one. Just downright lousy basketball. How can you argue that one when the record is this? Lazy passing and lazy defense. Yeah, they're not good on defense, so I see why you say it's lazy. And then in the last 7 minutes, it was everything that you would do. They did wrong. They did everything wrong in the last 7 minutes. Everything. Defense, passing. So it was downright lousy basketball. That's it. That's where we're at. Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for Michigan, and that is brought to you by the Maize and Blue Review. And good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball, which you can hear 3 times a week on this very channel, this very feed that you're watching or listening to right now. 2 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Here is the schedule. Thursday, Michigan heads to Evanston. They'll take on Northwestern. It is a 9 o'clock tip. Woo, a late one. We'll be here. We're here after every Michigan basketball game. Then on Sunday, Purdue comes to town for a matinee at the Chrysler Center. Zach Edey and company. Then the Wolverines will round out the end of February by heading to Piscataway on Thursday, February the 29th to take on Rutgers. And then the 2 games in March, Michigan goes to Ohio State, and then they host Nebraska, and then it's the Big Ten tournament. Right now, Michigan owns the 14th slot, which is the last one. And they'll be playing on that first Wednesday. The Big Ten tournament this year is in Minneapolis. A couple of years ago, in downtown Minneapolis. It's fabulous. And nice downtown there. I don't know how many Michigan fans are going to the Big Ten tournament, but that first Wednesday, you can be sure that's where Michigan is going to be. Now, you're a pretty big diehard if you're thinking about it. I'm going to watch Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. You say, look, I just love college basketball. And I get that. Can they win one game there? Who knows? Probably not, I would say. I would say make your prediction for the first round of the Big Ten tournament. I'd say I bet Michigan comes out and they have the lead at the half, and then they lose it in the second half. That's what they've done all year long. Why would we think that would be anything different? It's not like you can, just crank it up. They can, maybe have Doug McDaniel back for the rest of the season. Is that going to matter? No, I don't see that mattering. Does it matter? Terrence Williams II, getting him back, would he have made the difference tonight? Probably not. I don't think so. They can't count on anybody that's coming off the bench, and they can't really count on anybody to all five to play that many minutes. Look at the minutes. I mean, like you say, are you kidding me? Well, Cheddar and Trey Jackson play for a couple minutes. I know these guys are young and everything, but that hurts. You can say, how come they don't have any other bench players? Well, they went after the kid from Argentina, Lee Alija. That didn't work out. He's gone to play pro ball in Spain. So they got a just scholarship that they're not using. I don't know if Jace Howard, sometimes he's been in and out of the lineup over the last month. He's played a little bit here, but he's not adding anything, if we're going to be honest. GW3, I mean, he's a freshman, so maybe he can get better, but he's done nothing. Yo, I think he could be hurt. He's been in and out of the lineup, but he hasn't shown anything. But, he's a second-year guy. Oh, that's what do you think of Yo? He's a second-year guy. That's it. That is it. What else is there to say? I'll look at the last comments as Michigan goes down in this one. Derek says maybe they will beat all the teams wearing red in this stretch. Well, if they do that, they got Nebraska left. I thought there was a joke in there. Maybe I'm just missing it. What was the last time Michigan finished last in the Big Ten? I think 1966. Cassie Russell left in 1965, and then Michigan finished the last place of the Big Ten the year after that. 66, I think. And Vaughn, the last bit of feedback here is saying many of the turnovers of the 22 were not forced. Yeah, there were a few that weren't forced. There were a few that you're asking for it. Driving, like when you try to go 1-on-5 and you're not protecting the ball, you go in like, I'm just going to go 1-on-5 and I'm going to keep my dribble and I'm going to go around guys. You're going to get the ball taken from you. That's what happened. And Kamwa, I like Olivier Kamwa's game, but if I was coaching him, I would put the handcuffs on him passing the ball when he puts it on the floor. He's not good at doing that. He has not. If you take all of Olivier Kamwa's plays this year when he is dribbling the ball and passing, I would bet if he has done that 50 times this year, he has thrown it away 40 times. That's how bad it is. He's not a good passer, and he's not a good dribbler. And yet he was doing it again tonight. And tonight was a highlight for it, and I like his game. That's on coaching. If he hadn't done that all year long and he just had a bad game, say, hey, he's there. You can make a case he's their best player. Best full-time player, him and McDaniel. but it's happened all year long. He makes the same mistake all year long. I'd love to ask Sadi Washington about that. My thought there is that these guys would say, "What else are we going to do?" We do tell him that, but we don't have who else can put the ball on the floor and try to create their own shot. Doug can do it. Who else? Nobody. Nobody else can get their own shot. Burnett, maybe a little bit. So you have five, they're not statues, but guys that you need to run plays for or get the ball in position so they can score. You need more than one guy. That's part of the problem. They don't have guys that can get their own shot. They don't play well. They don't play well together in running offense to get guys in a good position because their offense appears to be predicated on just a feel and ISO and get your own shot. You might not like that. I don't like it when you don't have guys that can get their own shot. When you're playing an offense that is get your own shot in ISO and you don't have players that can do that, it's a bad offense. An offense, while it was the problem the last 7 minutes, their defense has been terrible all year long. And it's not me beating them up or anybody else beating them up. Juwan Howard he's called them out repeatedly all year long. They don't compete. They don't guard their man. They don't play that side of the ball. They don't give the effort. I listened to Terry Mills. It was the one game. I don't remember which game it was. Oh, it was early on. The game wasn't even on Peacock. Couldn't buy it. It was the Long Beach State and Mills. Or Mills last year was calling the team out against Central for not trying. Mills a few times this year. It's been like they're not giving the effort. That's where, when you're the athletic director, you might love Juwan Howard. He's your handpicked guy. He's a part of the Fab Five. You brought him in. He had his health concern. All of those things. But then when you hear your own color analysts say, "Man, these guys are not showing the effort," when you hear your own head coach saying, "Same old song," that's when you know. So we know. I know. You know. Terry Mills knows. Juwan Howard knows. Ward Manuel must know. And we all know. I believe this. We all know that you're going to get to the end of the year, and that's it. So what can be done between now and the rest of the year? Not much. If you're somebody that likes watching Michigan to tune in because you're just a diehard Michigan fan, I get that. It's mostly why I tune in. And then I'm also going to do this show. What else? Just fire it up after the game. It doesn't matter what happened. So I'll watch the games. You'll watch the games. A lot of people now are catching college basketball fever because football is over and people are getting real fired up about it. Michigan's going to be left on the sideline. That's the sad part. But hopefully with this, there will be a new beginning after the year. That's how I see it. That's where I'm going with it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, rest of your Saturday night. We'll talk with you on Monday on Good Afternoon Michigan Football and Basketball. Then we'll be here for Michigan's next game, which isn't till Thursday night against Evanston. We'll have some late night basketball talk after the Wolverines and Cats get together. Until then, the final 73-63. I picked this game to be a 70-60 MSU victory. Michigan They fall to a record of 3-12 in the Big Ten, 8-18 overall. Michigan State goes to 9-6 in the league and 17-9 in the conference. 73-63. Thanks for watching, everybody.